Well, I have to say, club members, I'm certainly in my happy place with this month's theme, looking at Grand Cru Blanc de Blanc, with a focus on the Côte de Blanc and Le Mesnil-sur-Oger. Now, two sensational producers, two sensational Blanc de Blanc cuvées. Coming out to our lovers and our connoisseurs is a cuvée from Pierre Péters. If you've not yet been introduced to this house, I'm sure you'll be impressed. And if this is the entry level point for this wine, let me tell you, you will want to keep exploring up the tree because these wines are phenomenal. For our connoisseurs, you are receiving the Pierre Gimonnet FE Fleuron Vintage 2017, another stonking champagne. When we look at the Côte de Blanc, the coast of white within Champagne, we have a couple of, literally running down a line, a couple of dot point vineyards which are Grand Cru in their ranking, so the highest possible ranking, which produce champagnes of exceptional tension, precision, salinity, and minerality. They also have enormous aging potential. They've got enormous power, but they provide something that's just hard to measure up to. One of the most expensive champagnes in the world, of course, is Krug Clos de Menil, from the very same village as Pierre Péters' Cuvée de Réserve, which is coming to you this month, and also Salon, sourcing its fruit from the neighboring vineyards. So we're talking about serious pedigree in our vineyards, in our Chardonnay, and in our Grand Cru parcels, which are in your wines this month. Now, a little bit about the Pierre Péters house. I have to say I've been lucky enough to visit the Pierre Péters vineyards a number of times, and the house is now run by Rodolphe Péters. Rodolphe Péters is a man of immense particularity when it comes to making wine. You know, if I can imagine him in any other industry, in any other role, he'd be an engineer. His level of particularity and precision is beyond most in the Champagne region. And the way that he works Chardonnay is just beautiful. The Cuvée de Réserve, which is coming out to everybody, is a Blanc de Blanc from Le Mesnil-sur-Oger. Now, it's only 3 years aging on its lees, but where we get depth and power and complexity is the addition of the Reserve. Probably alluded to in the name of the wine, and we've got a Solera system where we've got wines that have been added into the mix every year dating back to 1988, giving you incredible power. I have to say, a little bit cold when I first put the champagne in my glass. It needed to warm up just a tiny bit, but hallmark on the nose. You know, immense power, raciness, salinity, minerality, some dried fruits, some floral notes, some rose, that saltiness, a real saltiness on the palate, a little bit of tangerine, a little bit of spice, and just this length that goes on and on and on. When you're talking about a price to value ratio, it doesn't get much better than this champagne. You know, retailing from $120 to $130 a bottle AUD, that for me is a phenomenal champagne and will rival most Blanc de Blanc. So a great start looking at the wines from Le Mesnil-sur-Oger, which are some of the chalkiest parcels in Champagne. Now think about this. We've got a root system that's digging down into the chalk. When the vines are in the chalk, they have less stress than in sand or in clay. So the root system is burying down deeper, giving back that beautiful mineral tension, and also absorbing some of the water. So we've got less struggle, less contest for the development of the fruit. So healthy, happy vines digging down into chalk. And of equal quality, from slightly different vineyard positions, we have the Maison Pierre Gimonnet FE. Now, this house dates back to the 1750s, so super long pedigree within the Champagne region. We've got Didier and Olivier now taking over from their father. So their father retired in 1996. The gentleman took over at this point. Great year to take over. Exceptional vintage. The two brothers working side by side, and now their younger children coming up the ranks and helping in the family, which more hands is super helpful when you're making a wine as complex as Champagne. So I'm sure that the men are happy that the children are coming up the ranks and getting involved in the winemaking. We've got some amazing sites, 29 hectares of land. They're maison located in Cuvée, but they've got some vineyards in Échelle and Cremant and Le Mesnil. So we're talking about 72% of the vineyard parcels being in Grand Cru, 28% being in Premier Cru sites. So we've got sensational fruit parcels, blessed, lucky. And I have to say that every wine from the Gimonnet house is impressive. I've never had a wine from the Gimonnet Maison that does not appeal to me. The Fleuron is coming out to you. It's the 2017 vintage. Fleuron, I think the translation is something like flagship. So I understand where they're going with the name of this cuvee. You can see it on the label, of course. We know the two rules of vintage. When we're declaring a vintage, we're releasing a vintage. You can only put the year on the label if you meet two conditions. 100% of the fruit must come from that year's harvest, be pressed and bottled from that year's harvest, and that it meets a minimum aging requirement of 3 years. This wine's been disgorged in 22, so just shy of 5 years of aging, disgorged, and then back down into the cellars. A low dosage, I believe we're at 5.5 grams, so just slightly on that extra Brut side, not dissimilar to the Pierre Péters wine. There is a difference on the nose to this wine. You can see more roundness, you've got more lychee, you've got apricot, you've got suppleness, you've got a generosity. You've got a really ample volume coming from the aromatics of the wine. It's giving me an indication of what's going on the palate. We've got the same tension, we've got the same raciness, we've got the same precision and minerality of the Pierre Péters wine with just a little bit more generosity, a little bit more brioche, cream, roundness, generosity on the palate. Two exceptional examples of winemakers who've been blessed with some of the best Chardonnay parcels in Champagne. I know everybody talks about Ruinart Blanc de Blanc, and it is a great wine, but for me, if you're looking for Blanc de Blanc parcels, you cannot beat Grand Cru in the Côte de Blanc, particularly with parcels from Auger, Le Mesnil-sur-Auger, and Cremant. And you've got two great producers underway. If you were to compare the wines of the Côte de Blanc, these Grand Cru parcels that have incredible precision and aging potential, to something like Chardonnay from Cézanne, you'll see more breadth, more roundness, more ripeness, whereas this is more tension and more structure and with enormous aging potential. If you have the fortitude, both of these wines would age really well in your cellars, but you know what? They're fantastic, and I suggest drink them now, enjoy them. I hope you enjoyed the wines from this month. Two classy producers. And to all of our Melbourne Club members and those around Australia who wouldn't mind skipping over to Melbourne for a couple of days, we are lucky enough to be hosting Didier and Olivier in a club event this month. So on July 18th, it's a Thursday night. We have the brothers coming out from France to host a very special vertical tasting of the range, of the Pierre Gimonnet FE range, looking at all of the sensational cuvées from the house. Please join us. It's a Thursday evening. I will be hosting, just fresh off the boat from Paris, but looking forward to seeing you for those of you in Melbourne. I hope you enjoyed the club wines for this month. Certainly right up my alley in terms of style. Two exceptional Grand Cru, Chardonnay-led wines, and I hope that you enjoyed them as much as I did, and I will see you on the next episode as a fresh boat will have just landed from France.